No,
it's really
no, and definitely thank you for inviting me. I really, really appreciate it. I hope that I share something that's worthwhile with the community today.
it's always worthwhile. Hey, people are excited to learn more about quantum, and especially in Africa. So you I always come across people from elsewhere who are wondering what's happening in Africa, and it's good that we've got this community running, and they hear about this work, and it just puts us on the spotlight. If ever nothing else happens beyond that, but at least people are going to get to know we are paying attention, we are learning slowly.
No, that is true. And the most important thing is once you have a community that you can depend on, you can progress faster. It's very hard to progress if you don't know who to reach out with, who to connect to. And what one quantum serves very well is the ability to bring everyone onto one platform. And that's where collaborations start off with. They start off by people coming together with one purpose.
For sure, sounds good. I hope the community uh, grows and people think it's important and they support the efforts, and we make it work for everyone.
No,
So
definitely.
yeah,
So can I ask you, how has been your experience with One Quantum? So you always asking other people, but I think it's time to ask you what experience. So that's very important. I mean, you started this, and what's your experience so far?
it's been great. It's been great. I never thought we would be where we are today. We have grown very fast. I've received a lot of support from the community. Um, and a lot of other things surprised me. I've also come across a lot of surprises where there are people from some countries I've never known about who have
Yeah.
stepped up. We have heard their stories. We realize just we are similar. Our struggles are the same, and we all are eager to see the same things for our countries, for our continent. And there are also people from outside who are interested to learn about what happens in Africa. I didn't think there was so much interest
Yeah.
in Africa beyond the politics. Like I come from Zimbabwe, there's been a lot
Yeah.
of politics here to do with the West, and you always think that people give you attention to take advantage of you and all that. But I've seen also that sometimes the interest is in just knowing what's happening in Africa, and there are people who have come to these meetings religiously who want to just
Yeah.
learn about what's happening in Africa, and how they can support. So yeah, so it's been
And I
it's been
think
it's been good. It's been good.
And I think that now there is a lot more going on in quantum in Africa. I mean, besides South Africa, that I guess leads a lot of the quantum initiatives, countries like Rwanda is really placing themselves on the map, especially with this with machine learning and their innovative approaches to doing science as well as progressing the industries. And it's so important to see how the African continent is growing.
Very true, very true. And there are also things about Africa that I didn't know, like projects that people are working on. It could be work from Tunisia on the atomic clock. It could be work
Yes,
you guys are doing at UKSZN in quantum communications. So you learn a lot about what people are working on, which you never get to know as an individual, as a researcher. You
yeah,
know, you're always going to be limited by your the relations between the PIs, instead of
exactly.
going beyond those borders and collaborating and learning about what other people are working on.
No, that is so true. And there's just so limited amount of people that you can meet at conferences because conferences, of course, is very expensive and it's very hard to actually go to too many conferences a year. So most of the time when you go to a conference, you meet the same people every single time. And in the platform, at least you're getting to meet various peoples across Africa and beyond, which is very important.
For sure. So it's been really a great story. It's been a great story for me. I didn't think that we're going to see the community taking off that fast. There is a lot of work to be done to
Yeah.
deepen the community, reach out to more people, and provide opportunities. I'll be happier if we are going to talk about this as a platform which has enabled a lot of people to find whatever is a version of success for them in quantum tech or something. And if we work on some common solution for Africa and have impact, that would be great.
No, definitely. I think that this is a stepping stone towards that. And I think what is important now is to get people to not only speak to each other during these one quantum meetings, but also offline. And I think the moment you get that kind of connection going, you can expand much faster.
So yeah, thank you very much for that. And I'm just trying to fix my network to use a different network. You could also try to share your slides
Yeah, let me
so that we
try.
see if that is working.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, so it says that the host has disabled sharing.
Let me see how to set that out because I'm trying to run it from my PC. So let me just tell the. So let me sort that out and make you co-host. Let me see if I can do it on the phone.
Yeah.
I should be able to do it. Let me see. Yeah, it seems I can't do it on the phone. Let me just do it on PC. That should happen in a moment. So tell me about the optical science OSA. What is the abbreviation for that?
Oh, yes, so the Optical Society of America, I'm not sure if any of the members of One Quantum is part of it, but it's an organization that's affiliated with almost 300 universities across the globe. And they have 21,000 members that are made up of scientists and engineers working in anything that is either optics, photonics, laser-based. So it falls part of all the kind of technologies that we're currently working on a research level. So they span from like nonlinear, from classical all the way to quantum research. And the advantage of this is that they have, once you're a member, you have lots of benefits to downloading papers, attending conferences. They always giving scholarships to students to attend meetings and conferences. And it's a kind of nice platform to basically engage with the community at large. There's a lot of programming within the OSA. The Optical Society has the Traveling Lecturer Grant or Traveling Lecture Program, where you can invite a lecturer to your university or institute for a week or a 2-week visit, depending on the ability of the person. There's a number of other schools and events. They have this innovation hub. They have also the Sigmund School on Lasers, which has like an in-depth 1-week course on laser technology that's normally lectured by Nobel laureates. And it's just a community of engineers and scientists with a common goal of developing technology. And it's very well known. And I think like they're trying to encourage more chapters in Africa. So if we are to look at the African continent, I think there's a chapters in South Africa, there's a chapter in Ghana and Tunisia. But I think that's where it just ends. It's just 3 chapters at the moment, but they're trying to expand their reach to many more chapters in Africa. In terms of other countries, as I said, they're affiliated with 300 other universities. So they've got at least 200 some odd chapters across the globe outside of Africa. But I think there's a lot of benefits as a student to be involved, especially with the respect to networking and gaining expertise from the greater research community. So it's something we should, most universities in Africa should consider hosting their own student chapter. If you want, I could eventually pass you some information via email and you could spread the information with everyone.
Sure.
And if they're interested, then they can create a chapter at the university. I think it's very beneficial to be part of a greater community. Definitely.
That would be great. That would be
Yeah, no,
great.
I'll share some
So
information.
just a moment. Let me. Okay.
Can I try again? Okay, so it still says it's disabled, so I cannot screen share. I'm not sure. Hi, everyone.
For joining us. Sorry for the delays. Just a few technical glitches. But all the same, confirm that you can hear me and we can proceed with the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Yaseera. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to One Quantum Africa meetings, where we gather as an African community to exchange, share, learn, collaborate, and showcase our work as Africans and discuss about how to take advantage of these emerging technologies, and especially for quantum, how we can also shape it since it's an emerging industry. It's my pleasure to have all of you today joining us and to also host Dr. Yaseera Ismail from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Um, Perhaps a few housekeeping issues to take us forward. Um, okay, so we have got an interesting event that is coming in March, which is the Women in Quantum Summit, the fourth one. This time around, we've seen a lot of progress happening with one, and we would want to join and enjoy to men, but to that event. Interesting thing about this time that is dedicated to quantum machine learning. A lot of you guys will be interested in. For the career fair, what we are doing with the career women is the effort we are going to be looking at and there's a day being about opportunities and about the kind of skills they're looking for and how best to take advantage of the opportunities that are open in those organizations. So I'm going to share details on where you can send your CVs in case you are interested, so that we can also get those CVs available for review. Next week, we have the real France on this share with us on to be educated for us as Africans. So shares
I think Farah is having connectivity issues. So I think I have to wait for him to come back. Yes, he's almost back.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. I'm just trying to set up the best network for me. So I'm also doing that as I speak. And apologies, since we're just going to struggle a bit until I master that. My networks are not behaving today. So I was saying, we are going to hear from Tereo next week. I just thought I would mention that. Then, without wasting much time, let's hear from Yaseera. Um, Dr. Yaseera Ismail is from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, as some of you may know. Um, she's an expert in quantum communications, and she's going to share with us. She's going to introduce her fully. There's a lot of history, a lot of achievements on her platter, and I hope she will share that with us. We want to learn from her about the opportunities for quantum in Africa, especially quantum communications. What she thinks we can do to make the community better, and she's been exposed and has gone around the world, attended a lot of conferences, and also is part of the Optical Society of America. And it's a community as well, so we may have a lot of takeaways from that, so that we also make our community better and we make everything work for people in Africa. So perhaps my first question to you, you're going to do your presentation. I just wanted to know, perhaps it could help people in the community. How do you, at the moment, how do you keep up with a lot of this fast progress that is happening in quantum? I struggle myself to be reading publications every day, and archive is always, active, and you go to the news, you go all around. How do you manage, perhaps, to just keep sane with all these fast developments in tech?
I think that one way of managing it, yes, you're right. There's just a lot of papers that release in quantum every day. And I think what you should do is keep an eye for the key researchers in the field. And we know that if we have to look at globally, we know who all the key partners are. So in terms of, let's take quantum computing, for example, as we know Microsoft, Google, um, Xanadu. So all our NIST devices, they are the key players in the quantum computing area, for example. And so if you just keep an eye for what's coming out from those research groups, because I mean, there's a lot of papers. And if you want to try and read every paper, you're not going to get enough research done because you spend a lot of your day and hours reading papers. So I think what you need to do is, of course, keep an overview of some of the highlights, as well as follow the research groups that are really contributing vastly to the area of expertise. And I think that helps a lot to streamline the amount of reading you do per day. And I think that's very important. And then, of course, you also try and attend the key conferences. And I know with COVID-19, things are difficult right now. But when it comes to conferences as well, choose and select your conferences wisely. And select conferences where you can gain the most amount of knowledge as well as gain the most amount of ability to network appropriately at the conferences. And we know when we go to these large conferences, especially international conferences, it's very hard to network. And I think the most important part is when you're choosing your conferences, you could choose correctly. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Farai.
I think so. Thank you very much for that. I was just wondering because I struggle with those things as well.
Yeah, I know it's for me, it's
So
time is such a problem. So you tell yourself you're going to dedicate an hour to reading every day because you need to keep an eye on what are the recent outputs in the field. But you do get busy, especially now with everything virtual. It's, I think, a lot more commitments. And so it's important to just have a good time management system in place.
sounds good. Thank you very much for that. So without much ado, I give you the floor. I'm going to sort out to make sure that you can show your slides. Perhaps in
Yes,
the
please.
meantime, you could, as you introduce yourself, I'm going to make that happen. I just need to do
Okay,
it when I'm off this platform. Thank you.
not a problem. Thank you so much, Farhan. So as for I said, I'm Yaseera Ismail. I'm from the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, specifically in the city of Durban. And I've been working on quantum technology since 2012. So it's been a good over 8, 9 years in the field. Um, and basically, my focus right now is on the development of quantum satellite technology and the development of intercity quantum links. And I thought that today I would like to use my time profitably to talk to you about this whole drive towards a quantum internet and what are the technologies that are required to develop a quantum internet and specifically focus on quantum communication. And what are the recent advancements in the field of quantum communication with that direction towards a quantum internet. I'm not sure if I can share my screen as yet. I think Farai still needs to enable that.
Just a moment. Just a moment. So you share your screen in a moment, Yaseera. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'll also introduce you to some of the opportunities that I've had over my years when I was a student and as I progressed towards my career as a postdoc and then automatically through the system got a full-time academic position. But I will give you some advice as well as some of the opportunities that I made use of to develop my career. And there's two opportunities that I'd like to talk to you. And I see that there are female scientists in the call. There's one of it called the Tech Woman, which is hosted by the United States Department of State. And I'll explain to you what the Tech Women program is all about. And I'll also speak to you about the Optical Society of America, which is also another affiliation that I'm very actively involved with. And also thereafter explain a little bit more on the development of quantum technology. So I'm still having problems sharing my screen. I'm not sure. I think I have to wait for Farai to enable that.
Okay. Yes. Just a moment, Yaseera. I'm just struggling
Not
with
a
a small thing,
problem.
so you can keep us entertained. Sorry for that. Yes,
So,
the recordings will be available. Ash, it's okay.
so I'll
I was
actually,
answering it in the chat.
let me actually, since I have some time to wait and kill, let me talk to you a little bit about this Tech Women program that I mentioned. So Tech Women, and it affects a lot of us in Africa because it's directed towards the African continent. And the whole aim is, and I apologize for the males in the call, but the aim of Tech Women is to drive in and inspire young female scientists and engineers to grow their careers. And it is actually a global program. However, they choose individuals from Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, as well as the Middle East and Central Asia. And so the African countries that it is is Algeria, for example, Cameroon, Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, all the countries. I know that if we have to look at one quantum, most of us are from these countries, and South Africa as well. And the whole aim is to take you for 5 weeks into the tech industry. So you go to Silicon Valley for 5 weeks and you spend time at companies in the Silicon Valley. And you could spend time at, for example, Microsoft, Google, and other companies. Like I was at Synopsys, and this company basically built integrated chips. But there's a vast number of places or companies in the Silicon Valley that is affiliated with tech women, and you get a chance to pick a company that you want to spend time at, and you spend 5 weeks getting integrated into these companies. You basically do a 5-week internship at a company in the Silicon Valley, and I promise you, it's such an amazing experience for any young and inspiring scientist or engineer, because the networks you build within these companies is what can help you grow your career. So that is something that I'd like to encourage you to maybe get involved with. So how is that quantum? Well, you can be placed at universities in the US that is working on quantum-based research as well as quantum-based technology. So there's a number of universities like UC Berkeley, and MIT, and a number of other universities that are involved in these programs. Of course, you perform the research and the development in the Silicon Valley, where some of them have headquarters. And it is quantum-based because you can get involved in the type of research that you're currently implementing. And so you just have to plan if you get selected, to plan your 5 weeks adequately so you get the best placement. So it is quantum to some extent because you get a chance to select the company you want to be based at. And if you look at Microsoft, Google is all working on quantum-based technology. So you could be placed as an intern at any one of those companies as well. I hope that answers your question, John. I'm not sure if I still can't share my screen. No, I can't. Okay, so I'm going to continue, and hopefully I get a chance to share my screen.
Yaseera, can you hear me now?
Yes, Farai. I'm not sure. I think we still can't share the screen. So Farai, you use a computer, right? So
yes, I'm now on a computer.
Participants. So if you go to participants and select more, you should
Yes, I did. You know where my challenge is?
Yes.
My challenge is I need to enter as the one who organized meetings. I think I just can't pick it for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay, so if we can't connect, I think that I can just talk through my slides without showing anything. I'm not sure. I don't think it's a effect.
You can email them to me whilst I figure that out, so that you can just talk, but I'll get the slides up and running as soon as I can.
Okay, so I then ask that you don't share these slides with anyone, if that's okay.
No, not a problem. It's okay. You can speak at the moment. As I get my administrative rights back, then I will just allow you to share. I think that is the best way to do it.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to again. No, it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. So I think like, okay, so I'm going to just speak through my slides then. I think that will be best. So as I said, my main aim or focus of today's talk, and Farai asked me to give this talk some time back, and I said that I will give a talk on quantum communication and looking at the development of quantum technology. So I'm not sure if you came across this document, but I think it's a good document to read. It was released last year, March, by OIDA. It's part of the OSA. And basically, they looked at surveying and speaking to at least 100 different experts in the field of quantum technology. And they put together this 100-page document that basically gives a roadmap of where the field is going from the year 2020 to the year 2035. And in this document, what they suggest as the progression of the field is that by 2035, they're hopeful that we would have a kind of fault-tolerant gate-based quantum computer. But in the interim of that, there's a number of other technologies that needs to be developed simultaneously to ensure that we don't have a stagnation of the different other technologies in the field of quantum. And one of it is quantum communication. And the reason being is that I don't even have to emphasize this to this community. We all know that if we have a universal quantum computer, one of the functionalities of a quantum computer is that it can break current encryption techniques. So it renders our current encryption techniques such as RSA obsolete. And when this happens, we then will need an alternative way of encrypting information. And for that reason, there's a lot of effort now going into the development of a quantum network for quantum communication. And from this document, they made a progression that by 2035 plus, there would be this development of a quantum internet. But what this means is that we would have to have a connectivity between quantum computers and quantum key distribution systems, as well as technology that is based on quantum metrology, so quantum sensors. And through this whole process, we can connect all these types of technologies to develop what is known as quantum internet. But what does this mean for quantum communication? We all know that if we have to look at quantum communication, it's just the safer platform of actually encrypting data. Why is it so safe? It's a physical process which is guaranteed by the laws of physics. And since you can't break the laws of physics, you can't break a quantum communication system. Currently, there's commercially available fiber-based quantum communication systems available. This is by companies such as ID Quantique and Toshiba that sells these devices. But the aim now is not just to develop fiber-based quantum communication systems, because fiber-based quantum communication systems are dependent on the fiber length that is available, as well as where the quantum bit error rate is low. And unfortunately, currently, the longest fiber length we can actually implement in a quantum key distribution system is 412 kilometers. Anything beyond this, we have to look at alternative mediums to transmit single photons to generate an encrypted key for communication. And that is why there's this drive to develop free space quantum communication. And this is dependent on just on point to point, so kind of a line of sight communication, as well as satellite-based communication. And I think that if we have to look at how the field is progressing, there's a lot more emphasis now into the satellite-based quantum communication, because it can really push the limits at which you can send single photons through the environment, because majority of the transmission channel is in vacuum, and there's just a shorter distance that passes through the environment. And so you can increase the length of your quantum channel by using a satellite-based system. And so currently, if we look at the quantum communication field, there's a lot more emphasis in the development of satellite-based QKD. And this, the leading research group at the moment is the group of J.W. Pan, and that is the group in China. They've already launched their first quantum, and I think the only quantum satellite that exists, and that's the MISCUS satellite. And they're currently working to launch the next satellite in a higher Earth orbital, since the MISCUS satellite is launched currently in the lower Earth orbital. And if they're successful, then they want to actually have the ability to transmit keys for encryption 24/7. Currently with the MISCUS satellite, they limited by only the range in which they have the window period where the satellite passes through a region. But with the satellite they currently launching or aiming to launch in the next 2 to 3 years, they'll be able to keep the window period open 24/7 for the encryption of keys. And so that's where the development of quantum technology is going into with respect to quantum communication. Apart from, I think, increasing the key length, when it comes to quantum communication, the method of encoding information is very important as well. And I'm not sure if you probably know this, but I actually welcome any questions at the moment, but they use a lot more polarization to encode information. And what I mean by polarization is to use the rectilinear basis, so your horizontal vertical basis, or your diagonal basis, which is your plus or minus 5 degree polarization states, to encode information. So the way they do this is you encode a single photon in either one of the polarization states, pass it through a quantum channel, and through this process of measurement and detection, you're able to generate a key that will undergo post-processing to generate a key for encryption. Another way of doing this is to use phase. However, if you have to look at how phase passes through the atmosphere, they use fields that have high dimensional states. And these are fields carrying orbital angular momentum. Now, the advantage of these is they span an infinite state space. And unfortunately, what the disadvantage of these fields, however, it breaks down when you pass it through the atmosphere due to atmospheric turbulence. And so now there's a lot of effort going into the development of these phase-based systems to transmit through the atmosphere. And a lot of research is also going into using machine learning to correct for the phase breakdown and to improve the detection schemes in these systems, to expand the length at which you can transmit these phase-based approach through the atmosphere. And the only advantage, as I said, it spans an infinite state space. It is not limited to just 0 and 1 in the case of polarization. And because they span an infinite state space, it basically increases the bandwidth at which you can transmit information. So that is another avenue that a lot of researchers are working on. And I think if we have to look at who's leading the research in terms of technology off the shelf, then we come back to China. China is leading this development as well. And they already have the fiber network and across 4 of their major cities. This is between Beijing and Shanghai. It's a 2,000 kilometer network. It has a 32 node trusted system. And they already have some of the key industry using these QKD networks, be it the banking system, the telecommunication network. So they've already got buy-in from various sectors to use the QKD networks for faster and safer methods of encrypting information. And so China is really pushing the limits in that sense. Also, an area where China is pushing the limits, as I said, is in satellite-based QKD. They were able last year, if I'm not mistaken, to implement a 7,600 kilometer link between China and the group of Anton Zeilinger in Vienna, and they were able to encrypt a Skype call. And this was just a proof of principle to see that the technology can actually progress in the length that they were working towards. So they were really trying to push the limit of the distance at which they can transmit these keys and actually encrypt information. So I think that I'm not able to share my screen as yet, but I'm just going to keep on talking. So where are we sitting on the African continent? So I'm going to use this opportunity to tell you what the group in South Africa, so the Quantum Research Group, what are we doing? So in 2010, I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but during the 2010 FIFA World Cup, we had a quantum encryption network set up. And this encryption network basically was a fiber-based link between the Moses Mabhida Stadium, which is where the matches were taking place, and the main hub. And we were encrypting the information that was leaving the stadium for the duration of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. And these were through off-the-shelf devices that we were in collaboration with ID Quantique at the time. And so these are based on a fiber network. We also had varying other links across the city. We had a 27-kilometer link active. We also had smaller links active. And this is the first time South Africa was able to develop a quantum fiber network for quantum communication and show proof of principle within the municipality. Since then, as of last year, we have been successful in a BRICS collaboration. And this is collaboration between Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And the whole aim is to develop a quantum satellite network. And this is going to be the first quantum satellite network in South Africa or for the African continent. And we're doing this in collaboration with the group of China. And the group that we're collaborating with in China is the leading researchers that launched that MISCUS satellite. And so we aim to do 2 links. The first link is just a link from the MISCUS satellite to a ground station in South Africa. And the second link is going to be an intercontinental link between China and South Africa. And I think that is something that we're really looking forward to in terms of development. We are midway into that project and it's looking promising at the moment. We're currently working on the development of our ground station that is going to be assembled at the University of KwaZulu-Natal on the Westville campus. It's a portable ground station that we're developing. Once it's assembled, we'll be able to start implementing these quantum satellite links. So something that we're really looking forward to, and we're happy to speak more of eventually. If we have to look at other countries, there's a lot of effort now going into developing these satellite-based technologies. Countries such as Singapore, for example, is working with Britain, and they are working on CubeSats. And basically, they're trying to launch these quantum satellites. So they put in the quantum payload onto the CubeSat to launch in order to develop an entire quantum network. And so that's also allowing us to increase the number of satellites that has quantum technology and the possibility to develop a quantum network. If we look at funding, unfortunately, and this is where Africa needs to play a more important role, there's a lot of funding going into development of quantum technology. However, majority of this funding is coming from the high players, so US, Canada, the EU, China, UK, Japan, South Korea. But we need to now focus on getting Africa on that map. And we really need to focus on initiatives to force the African continent to realize that we also need to invest heavily into the development of quantum technology. And we really do have the skill sets. And I think like One Quantum has proved this, that there's a lot of people now working on the development of quantum technology, whether it's on the experimental or the theoretical side. But there's this transferable skill platform that is occurring. But what we're lacking in Africa, unfortunately, is the buy-in from government, the buy-in from industry, and I think the funding, the investment. And that is something that we need to push going forward. And it's something that we need to start actively lobbying for. And that's investment into quantum technology so we can put Africa on the map as well. In terms of development, where do we see ourselves going in terms of these different quantum technologies? In terms of quantum communication, as I said, we need to develop a quantum network. But for that to occur, we need to push the limits in terms of distances at which we can transmit keys, as well as we need to push the limits of the key rate itself. So we need to increase the key rate in order to develop this quantum network. We would probably need eventually quantum repeaters, which a lot of research is going into as well. In terms of quantum computing, when we activities to get towards a fault-tolerant quantum computer, we need to improve error correction as well as increase the number of logical qubits. We also have quantum sensing, so metrology. I think in that case, the future vision is to miniaturize sensors and have this kind of integration of sensors. And so that's where I think a lot of the development is going into. But yeah, I think I can stop from there. I think it would have been better to see the slides, but unfortunately, I think I still can't share my screen. So I'm not sure, Farai, if you want to open up for questions or discussions.
So, hi, this is Eric Litvak. I just had a quick question. Can you
Sure.
repeat
Thank you very
again
much, Yaseera. My apologies because it seems I just can't reclaim. So thank you.
I don't think,
Eric,
yeah, I don't think I
so
can hear Farai
did
very well.
Eric
I think
eventually
Eric
ask?
wants to ask a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's Eric Litvak. I just had could you repeat again the distance for terrestrial?
Okay, so in terms of quantum satellites, I think that's what you were asking. So
Oh, no, a satellite, I got that. Obviously, the higher the satellite, the further the distance spread. But you were talking about like fiber and
So
terrestrial?
ground to ground. Okay, so ground to ground communication, the longest distance is 144 kilometers. This was from La Palma to Tenerife. And what I mean by ground to ground, this would be a line of sight.
Mhm.
In terms of fiber base, the longest link you can have is currently 412 kilometers, but this is with really sensitive fiber. So fiber is designed specifically, dark fiber designed for these types of applications. They really are trying to propose new schemes so that you can push that limit towards 500 kilometers. But with saying that, you still need a node-based system, the way the Chinese have done it, where they have this 32 trusted node system to basically extend the network towards 2,000 kilometers, which they were able to achieve.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes, not a problem. I see something in the chat from John. John, do you want to speak about it? Speak of the need. John? Okay, so I have a question here. What is
There you go. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Thank you so much. I saw quite a few messages in the chat, and I thought it's best that you maybe speak to it.
Well, no, and NASA's going to land Perseverance on Mars on Friday. So if that's the site you can actually go to and hang out and find out more information about the 7 minutes of terror when the spacecraft becomes incommunicado and drops through the atmosphere. And in 7 minutes, you'll figure out whether this thing actually landed properly or not. But what I was trying to say is the distance, that's like, I think, a 24-minute turnaround time. So the need or an interest in quantum communications is cutting that time down between spacecraft. I mean, that's just something I always kind of focused on. The farther out they get, the more noise could possibly get in the signal. So you have to have that many more refining techniques in your algorithms to discern the signal from noise and what's actually could be damaged. Because I was asking with the Chinese basically, I saw a talk on that, and I was curious about how much loss they had per repeater, right?
Yeah, no, I think they have very high losses right now. And that is why they base their system on a node-based system. So let me speak first to the fiber-based system, because that's where the repeaters occur. In their satellite-based system, it's just a free space link that they're using, but I'll speak to that as well. Okay. So yes, the losses is quite high the longer your fiber length is. And that is why instead of pushing the limit towards increasing the fiber length, the route the Chinese took is keep the length of the fiber shorter, but increase the number of nodes in the system. And that is why they went this whole 32 node system over 2,000 kilometers that basically just stagnates the distance at which each node is, or distance of each fiber for their nodes. And I think that's what they advantage is only because they limited the distance. So they could control that quantum bit error rate, and they could control the number of bits they could transmit through those shorter fibers. And so that means they increase the key rate. But key rate is a big problem. In the free space links, for example, if they went 645 kilometers, so I'm not talking about the link between Beijing and Vienna, but I'm just talking from the mystical satellite to a ground station. If they went a link of 645 kilometers, then they can transmit about 12 kilobits per second. But if you increase that link to just double that, so 1,200 kilometers, it's 1 kilobit per second. So you can really see the high losses in the system. The longer that channel, the losses just increase drastically. And that's where I think a lot of the research now is going into how we can use machine learning to improve the coupling of the systems and the coupling between the transmitted bits and the detection scheme, so we can improve that bit rate. And a lot more with coupling machine learning to adaptive optics as well. I hope that answers the question of John, but I think he fell down. So I'm not sure if Farai is here, but I'm happy to take more questions.
Just a moment.
Okay, Esther says, which resources would you recommend one use if they aren't interested in learning QKD? That's a very good question. There is a review paper, a very recent review paper that was published last year. And it's the most recent review paper, which gives you a very good insight into the development of quantum key distribution. And it is by the group of Jawi Pan. Let me just think of, let me see if I can send you the link for the review paper. If not, I can send it to Farai, and then Farai can send it on to Esther. But there has been a very good review paper that was published last year. Other than that, there's a lot of groups, but a lot of textbooks by the group of Anton Zeilinger. Anton Zeilinger has published immensely in this field of quantum communication. He is the leading researcher that implemented the 144 kilometer point-to-point quantum communication link. And I think that's a very good starting point as well, to read a book by Anton Zeilinger. There's so many textbooks to recommend, and I think if I have to try to recommend all of them, it's going to be too much. But I can send a link to Farai, a list to Farai, and he can pass it on to you if that's okay. I just don't find the...
Sounds good, Yaseera. Thank you.
But yeah, I think, as I said, if you follow the group of Jawi Pan and Anton Zeilinger, you would find out all the recent research in the development of communication. Are there any more? Oh, yes, I will send it to you as well, Eric. So maybe I just send it to Farai, and Farai can send it to everyone. And if you're interested, you can look at it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the floor?
I apologize again that I could not show you the screen.
I can't even reclaim my host rights for some reason. I don't know why.
No, it's not a problem. I mean, I think you would have enjoyed the talk more if it was
For
able
real,
to.
we
But
really
I
missed
apologize. I apologize for that profoundly.
Would you be able to perhaps make them just pick on what you think you want to share, so that I can share the slide deck on the newsletter?
Okay, so I would like to suggest some document. Can I put it into the link? Is it okay?
That's okay. That's okay.
So I'm going to suggest a document that, as I said, the Euler document that was published last year. And I strongly suggest that if you want to look at the development of quantum technology as a global aspect, and in this document, they touch on quantum computing as well, from the development at Google and Microsoft. And they've had, I think, researchers from all these labs give their insight to the development of this document, this photonic roadmap, this quantum photonic roadmap. And I strongly suggest that if you're really interested, read this roadmap. It's a bit of a lengthy document, and I took a lot of my descriptions of my progression in the field from this document, and I strongly suggest you look into it if you are interested.
And thank you. That's great. And the other question I have for you is, what's your take on? I've read some stuff recently in regards to Microsoft and looking at topological quantum computing.
Yeah.
And there's been some negative press, I guess, to say the least. What's your thoughts? Is it still something that is probably worth pursuing, or do you think it really is going down I guess like a rabbit hole for lack of a better term?
Yeah, a lot of people ask this question, and I think they ask this question very universal as well. Like, I've gotten this question so many times. Which do you think is the most promising NIST device that will probably end up as a fault-tolerant quantum computer? And you can ask the most established researchers, and they still can't give you an answer, because the answer that most people give, it's too early to tell. I think there's so much more development in the field, especially with the fact that we still need to put a lot more development in the control of these physical qubits, logical qubits, no matter which platform you're looking at, whichever NIST-based platform you're looking at. And I think that it's just too early to tell which of these technologies is really going to take off. If you have to look at it, every one of them has their disadvantages. Most of these devices are very noisy devices at this moment, and there are limitations in what they can and cannot do. And I think that we're just going to have to wait to see over the next few years how the field progresses. Of course, it's limited in how much control you have, the environmental conditions. We all know that quantum technology is not like classical technology where it's easy to implement. Besides having money, which is the driving force of these technologies, it's also the skill sets and the know-how. And I think it's just a matter of how these progress in the next few years. To be honest, Eric, I can't answer your question. I know that if you have to look at it, when every single NIST device came up, at some point there was a negative press. There was people on both ends of the spectrum saying these devices are good, and then at the other end where people are like, no, it's too noisy, and they just kept on giving reasons for why it's not good enough as yet, and it's just not good enough as yet. It still has to grow, but it has the potential, and we still can't do good research with current devices that we have. It's just, we have to wait and see. I'm not sure, Eric, if that answers your question.
No, it's completely fair. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say. A lot of people will just tell you the same. We got to wait and see. There's disadvantages and advantages over every single NIST device currently.
Excellent. I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Eric. Perhaps I'll just add and say, in the hope that you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
I will just add and say, whatever outcome, I guess I actually saw guys from condensed matter physics group who ended up commenting on that particular paper to say it's not really a step back, it's a step forward, because there is a lot of lessons that people have learned from that, and it's not like it's a failure where you are abandoning the technology. It's an opportunity it is just perhaps refining which direction people have to focus and what they have to work on to make sure they can realize the fermions. Otherwise, it's work in progress. I guess we'll get there, really. So
yeah, we will get there. I think I agree with Farah as well. Like it is a work in progress, and all these NIST devices are a work in progress.
That's great. So
important to have these failures as well, because then we learn what not to do.
For sure.
I see there's a question about what advice you can give young women in quantum who want to take quantum further and to embark on a quantum journey. Okay, so, the best advice I can give you is the only way you develop your skill sets in quantum is you are in an environment where you're exposed to this type of research and development and technology. And I know that can be very difficult, but if your university doesn't offer a quantum offering. However, with things being virtual now, you can collaborate and affiliate with other universities that do have a stronger quantum background and offerings. And I think that that's the only way, if you are young in the field, to learn. You learn a lot from your peers. You also learn a lot from a guided quantum course. Of course, with things virtual, online, there's a lot of resources available. You can take courses on Coursera, edX, but to really grow, you need to affiliate yourself with a strong quantum group. And I think that really does help, and it helped me when I was a student. And I think that's the best advice I can give you. I'm not sure if anyone else has any advice for Lorraine, but I think that is the best advice, to affiliate yourself with a good, strong quantum group.
Yeah, I just real quickly, because I have to leave, but I wanted to say thank you so much. And I guess my only advice for Lorraine is, exactly what you said, but also the wonderful thing is to see how many strong women there are in quantum. And I think, people like yourself and other experts, Lorraine, you should reach out to, to everyone and just, ask questions. I find that this has been a very open community and that people really want to share information because it's a growing field. And now's a great time to just make as many contacts as possible and learn from as many people as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. And taking on a mentor in quantum is also very helpful. As long as you can get into a quantum mentorship program, you can grow very fast and very far. Farai, can we hand over to you?
Sounds good.
I think Farai is still having connectivity.
That's okay. Thank you very.
Oh, thank you. Farai?
A lot about communications. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so I was saying thank you very much for coming through and for sharing with us on quantum communications. Really an important space. And for example, I didn't know that in 2010, while least we were celebrating the first World Cup in Africa, we were also running an encryption, quantum encrypted network in Durban. So that's really beautiful news, and it gives us strength to say we've got this in Africa. We can actually do this. We can collaborate and do this. So it makes us believe. So thank you very much for that. It is those stories that make us believe. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I hope you enjoyed. My apologies for the slides. we'll find a way of getting a version of them and share them on of our newsletter as usual. And I encourage you to perhaps join the cocktail. There's a link I shared, and perhaps it's an opportunity for one-to-one networking to learn more about each other and make new friends and get these conversations to keep on going. Otherwise, thank you very much, Yaseera. I really appreciate it. Congratulations for everything you have achieved and that you keep on achieving. I hope to keep on reaching out to you and learning as well as we go.
Thank you so much, Farai, for the opportunity to speak at One Quantum. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure, Yaseera, anytime. So we hope you have time for the cocktail. I will understand if you've got other commitments.
No, I'll come for a while, and then I'll come for a few minutes. I'm happy
That'll
to.
be great. That'll be great. Thank you, Yaseera. So thank you everyone. Let's meet on the cocktail.